Okay, you might be asking yourself, Yeti, my good old pal, why are you comparing a $500 camera to a $3,000 camera? And the reason for that is because one of the most common questions I get is, which camera do I use to, shoot videos and photos? And I used to shoot with the G7. I got great results with it, but now I'm shooting with A7R3, and I feel, A7R3 is a $3,000 camera. If you compare the Panasonic G7, which is a $500 camera, so it's hard to recommend a $3,000 camera to someone, especially if they're just beginning. So just to show people, what it looks like when you compare, a $3,000 camera to a $500 camera. That's the main purpose of this video. And for video, I don't think there is that much of a difference, except for the autofocus right now, which as you can see is just terrible on the G7. A7R3 just nails it perfectly. If I just put out my hand right there, it focuses on my hand and it goes back on my face perfectly. While on the G7, I don't even know if it can see my hands. But if I just move closer, does it have me in focus? It doesn't know where I am. Am I in focus right now? It's terrible. The autofocusing system on the Panasonic G7 is literally the worst thing that ever happened. And I don't mean the worst thing that ever happened in to autofocusing system. No, it's just the worst thing that ever happened. If I got shot tomorrow and lost both my legs, I'd be like, that's bad, but it's not bad as the autofocusing system on this camera. While on the contrary, the A7R3 has amazing autofocus, which is going to be the main difference, I believe, when it comes to video. And also you're going to be able to use, better lenses on the Sony A7R3. That's another thing that to consider is that I personally wouldn't buy any expensive lenses for the Micro Four Thirds cameras because they're getting phased out. Let's be real. Olympus just came out with a new Micro Four Thirds camera, but it's a $3,000 camera. That's it's okay. It has some cool features, but all that software stuff that they have on the Micro Four Thirds camera, they're just gonna carry that onto full frame cameras, and then it's gonna be even better. So it's there's no point to them in my opinion. So I'll say, if you're just starting out and you want to do both video and photo, I think G7 can do both of those things, or any other Micro Four Thirds camera, but just don't spend too much money on the lenses. Just buy some cheap lenses for now, just to learn how to just learn how the camera works, how photography, videography, just use it as a learning tool. But invest your money later on once you get a full frame camera like the Sony A7R3 or any other future, EF mount lenses cameras that they come up with later, because those lenses you're gonna be able to use them way in the future. That way your money doesn't go to waste. But anyways, guys, the other difference would be that Panasonic G7 can only shoot up to 1080p 60 FPS, while A7R2 can do 120 FPS. So you can do some cool cinematic shots. It has in-body stabilization, which is okay on the A7R3. If you were to get, any newer Micro Four Thirds camera, or even a GH5, it'll have way better stabilization just because the sensor is smaller on there. But I think it does a pretty good job. So it doesn't give you that gimbal look that other Micro Four Thirds, newer Micro Four Thirds cameras do with their stabilization. But it does the job fine. I think A7R3. But other than that, it has flat profiles that you can shoot on A7R3, which I personally don't like. Maybe I'm just bad at grading video, but I think I think you're better off just lighting your scene properly and lighting it well with different colored lights and everything than just trying to do everything post production. If you could do if you could shoot raw video, I think that'll be an amazing feature. But I think just shooting flat is just it's alright, but I think it's just you're just making yourself do way extra work for just to have a little bit more dynamic range and more flexibility with the colors. It's alright, but I'm gonna wait till I'm gonna wait till I can shoot like raw video until like I get into like color grading those images that much. But anyways, guys, now let's switch over to photo and see how that compares between a $500 camera that's 16 megapixels versus a 42 megapixel $3,000 camera. Okay, so now we're gonna be taking a look at the pictures, and I pretty much use the same lens for both the video portion and the photo portion. For Sony I use the 85mm 1.8, which I got right here, and for the Panasonic G7 I use the Olympus 45mm 1.8, which you pretty much have to double what it is, so it's gonna be a 90mm 3.6. Some people say it's 1.8 still. No, it's not. It's 3.6, and I'm gonna show you guys why. So let's first look at the let's start with the Panasonic actually. So we're gonna start out with the ISO 100. So we're shooting at the base ISO of Panasonic G7 and pretty much all Micro Four Thirds cameras. I think the Olympus cameras might be a little lower, is 200. So I'm shooting at ISO 100, so that's extended ISO. So there's not going to be much difference between 200 and 100 ISO. But as you can see, if you can shoot at ISO 100 on the Micro Four Thirds camera, you get a very clean image. The text is pretty clear, and we're looking at this 3:1, and this is a 60 megapixel image. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is the bokeh circles right here. Okay. Just keep these in mind. This is what they look like. And when you look at the on A7R3, this is also shot at 100 ISO, 85 1.8. The bokeh balls are completely different. As you can see, there's a huge difference between the Olympus, not the Olympus, the Panasonic and the Sony, and that's because Sony's a Micro Four Thirds Sony's a full frame camera, while the Panasonic camera is Micro Four Thirds, so it's quarter size, which means oh shit, just dropped the camera. That's not good. But which means that it pretty much means that it's not getting as much light as the full frame Sony camera is. So. And since the sensor is smaller, the lenses are smaller. Because of that, you're just not going to get the same depth of field that you're getting from the full frame cameras. But honestly, it's fine. If you compare it to, the background you're just going to get more bokeh from the full frame cameras. Now, if you happen to use a 0.9 lens on the Panasonic camera, then you can get the same amount of bokeh. But unfortunately, that lens doesn't really exist. I believe there is one lens that is 0.9, but it's a manual lens, and that's going to be a pain in the ass to focus if you're like just doing a photo shoot. So, that's the main problem with the Micro Four Thirds, and you're just not getting as much light. But you for both of them, you get a pretty clean image. Of course, the full frame camera is cleaner. If you compare the text, it's just a little bit more blurry on the Micro Four Thirds. But for both cameras, you get a pretty good image. The Sony camera is 6 times the price. You got to keep that in mind. But I think they're both fine. But again, this is at ISO 100, so this is the best case scenario shooting with the Micro Four Thirds camera. But let's go to the full frame camera. So we're gonna this is shooting at 12,800 ISO, and as you can see, it's pretty noisy, even though it's a full frame camera. Now, if you were to use like an A7 III, which is a 24 megapixel camera, so since it's a smaller megapixel on a big sensor, there is less noise on that. But some people even say that's kind of bullshit, because the thing is that since this is a 42 megapixel image, if you were to actually compress this down to 24 megapixel, you would actually get a similar amount of noise between those cameras. So I still think the A7R III is better. But as you can see, it's noisy once you zoom in. If you just like look at it from far, like if you were to like post this on like Instagram or anything, people are not gonna notice. But when you zoom in, you see the noise. But when we look at the Panasonic comparison, this image is just, at 1280, 800 ISO, you know, it's pretty much just unusable. As you can see, like, the camera tried to like fix the noise by like smoothing out the image, while the Sony kind of like kept the noise intact. Like if you were to like go to develop page and like use noise reduction on this image, you know, if I just like used it like this, yeah, it makes it like pretty usable, but like it does smooth out the image, but like this image is like already has been like smoothed out. There's like purple coming out of it. There's like insane amount of fringe coming out of it. If you use noise reduction on this, it's just like it just looks flat. You know, this is like pretty much unusable, which is what the main problem I had with the Micro Four Thirds camera is that like I pretty much had to keep the ISO at 100. I never like messed around with it that much. Like with the when I'm shooting with the A7R3, I will literally just like keep the ISO on automatic, and unless if I'm like shooting at like a completely dark place, like then you know I can just like count on this camera to do a good decision when it comes to the ISO. But if you're using a Micro Four Thirds camera, you pretty much have to keep the ISO on the base level, or else you're just gonna have images that are like pretty much unusable. Like you can go up to like ISO like 1800, I mean 800. You can go up to 1600 maybe, but that's even pushing it. So I don't know. You might be asking yourself, why would I need so many megapixels? You know, a lot of people will say, you know, you don't need over 24 megapixels. That, you know, 24 megapixels is all you need. Back in my day, I used to use 2 pixels to like shoot like a giant billboard and everything. And there is some truth to that, but I love having the high megapixels on my camera, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Like, first of all, if you're shooting wildlife, I think you need those high megapixels just for cropping purposes. You know, if you just get that like perfect shot, sometimes you need to like, you know, just zoom into that image just a little bit, just to like get that, you know, just to be close to that animal. Because when you're shooting wildlife, you get to stay so far away, and even though you might have like a 500 millimeter lens, you still need to like go in a little bit closer, and having that high megapixel allows you to start cropping. And some people say, oh, I need the megapixels so I can do like giant billboards. You don't really need it for billboards, in my opinion, because you're going to be standing so far away from that. And even if it's a lower megapixel camera, even if you got up to those billboards, they're still going to look good. It's not going to matter that much. But what I do love having high megapixel is for, you know, for what I do. I like to go out and shoot with models in the city or anywhere else where I'm just like, you know, kind of running gunning with the camera. You know, we'll be walking around. Sometimes I'll get like a full body shot of the model, and I'm like, you know what, this would work better as like a close up, and I can do that with like high megapixels. Like for example, if I'm editing this picture, and you know what, I'm like, I want to get like a closer look. I don't want it to be just, you know, a full body. I want this to be like a close shot. I can do this with this camera. So like if I want to like, so let's say like I don't want this to be a full body shot, then I can just zoom in, and guess what? Since this is 42 megapixels, I can just get a picture of her face, and you won't even know that I cropped this from, you know, this whole body shot, which is what I love about this camera. You know, if this was a 16 megapixel or even a 24 megapixel camera, if I zoomed in, it's gonna start looking it's gonna start looking pixelated. So this camera, you know, 42 megapixels just gives me more flexibility when it comes to my cropping, which is what I love the high megapixels for. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and like the video. I make videos every single week, so make sure to subscribe for my channel and follow me on Instagram where I post all my photography work. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.